we've got a very special reason why you should attend those elixir tastings, either the virtual on the 9th or the in-person on the uh, 11th. And I can't tell you exactly why, but I can kind of give you a hint here, and it's dark. It's a dark whiskey. Oh,
Yeah.
other way, right? It's
I saw
dark and it's
two
old.
numerals there too.
And I mean,
For those of you who
here
didn't
we'll
see
just
it.
like briefly
Yeah.
tease. So more to come on that. But trust me, you're not gonna want to miss that one. So um, yeah, not my
Hmm.
best Vanna performance, but I was trying to be
Yeah.
discreet.
Well, it's also a terrible idea because people can just freeze frame it on YouTube. But
Yeah, they can, but like they're not gonna do that because
that's right.
even if they do, as we were discussing before, no one will ever find that info because ChatGPT is just summarizing
Yeah.
things now. No one's actually going to look at stuff.
Yeah.
So it'll be garbled. All right, Edradour. Uh, claims to be founded 1825, actually only opened in 1837. One of the original founders or partners in the Edradour Distillery had been operating his own farm distillery since 1825. So that's taken as the start date for the Edradour Distillery. But Edradour proper, as it is today, as you could visit before the pandemic, but not since, has been, there now since 1837. So technically, the distillery claims 200 years as of this year, but in practice, it's not quite that old. But it is a fascinating distillery. It is tiny. It was for a long time Scotland's smallest distillery. It was bought by Andrew Symington of Signatory Vintage fame uh, in, I believe, 2000 or 2001. He bought it, and my favorite little nugget about this, sorry, it was 2002, was the distillery flooded. I think it was about a month after he bought it, and his insurance policy only took effect a day or two before the flood. And why this is all interesting is that Edradour, I believe, translates to the place where waters meet. And it's basically hidden in this little gully. We'd call it a coulee in Alberta, but a tiny little valley in the hills above Pitlochry. Really, a mountain valley would probably be the best descriptor of it. And shockingly, the waters there can rise without warning. And fortunately for Andrew, the insurance was in place. Evan, you've been there. You've had the
Yeah.
privilege of wandering around of
I was
almost
actually
every hit,
wondering if he drove a forklift into the river and that's what or the stream. Maybe that's what did it.
or he used his digger to divert the river and save the
Mhm.
distillery in Bob the Builder fashion.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a charming little distillery. It has had a role in the whiskey industry. It was famously the cornerstone of a blend. And Evan, do you happen to remember off the top of your head? Uh,
Oh,
oh, he's
I'll see if
going
I can find
digging.
it.
I know Doug, who's on the chat, almost certainly remembers this. I got to be honest, it's escaping me at this moment, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure I have a bottle of it in my collection, an old paper kind of square box wrapped bottle of this whiskey. Um, but Chivas owned it, sold it to Symington. In the last 10 years, they built a second distillery on site. Actually, it was probably, yeah, it was about 10 years ago that they commissioned it. King's Ransom. Thanks, Doug. And I do have a bottle of that tucked away somewhere. I have no idea if it's any good. Um, and I believe it was also part of a blend that was for either, I think it was for the British Parliament. It was another, anyway, the whiskey's been around for a long time. It's always been well regarded. And Symington bought it. It's fair to say the last decade or so of Chivas running it, they were not uh, putting things into the best casks. I think Symington figured this out over time. A lot of re-racking, a lot of sherry in that post 2002 era. And those sherry casks seem to be getting better, I think is the other part of it. Let's start off on the first whiskey because we don't want to drag this out too long without a dram. Um, I'll pop this up on the screen. So this is the 2013 11-year-old Edradour Natural Cask Strength decanter bottling. And they call this the Abisco decanter. I'm sure that means something to someone, but uh, you know, the corks in these are sometimes not the best. I think it's fair to
I've
say.
always wondered if that was named. Originally, I assumed it was like meant like like a Tesco exclusive or something like that. Like it only goes to Abisco.
No, I think it was
But
an
then I thought it
add-on
was
for
like the shape
shredded
of the
wheat.
bottle. Ah,
That's yeah, little Abisco shredded wheat
yeah.
humor. Here, let's pop this up on screen. So we're diving right in at cast strength here, 60%. Um, they say this is natural cast strength, so they would have had to vat this to hit that
Hmm.
60% mark. Only 11 years of age, bourbon cask. It's quite nutty and creamy, but it's not, at least on the nose, it's not rough or sharp. It's not hot.
It kind of reminds me of the old Macallan Fine Oaks, but at a higher strength, where like there's a bit of fruit, but not a ton. It's still really malt driven and sort of silky and syrupy at the same time.
Mhm. It's funny, we talked about shredded wheat before because this does have a
Hmm.
lot of grain on it. Like,
Yeah.
um, frequently when you're in Scotland, they'll often have for the breakfast buffet packets of shredded wheat, which is not something that I see over here very often. And having cracked one or two of them open, this is very grain forward. It's quite nutty, some nice citrus tones to it. Um, I mean, it's a thick, heavy spirit. And I suspect that one of the reasons why most of the Edradour we see is in sherry is just that this is a fairly big and robust spirit. It can hold up to that sherry, and that maybe sherry is kind of the best cask type for this particular spirit because it has a bit of a, it's not barnyardy, but there's a farminess to it too.
Yeah, it's man, I think this is the first time I've had Edradour that wasn't in sherry in quite a while.
Mhm.
But it is remarkable how rich it is, even
Mhm.
without that sherry oomph.
Doug says classic floral note, and it is starting to get a little more floral the longer it's in my glass.
Hmm.
There's some honey tones in there too, and like really nice, delicate floral tones. But let's give her a taste. That is pretty big. That is a big
Yep.
starting dram. Tons of honey, tons of citrus. Those floral notes are there. I want to say like faintly soapy, kind of floral tones to it on the palate. Um,
Hmm.
this reminds me of like sampling whiskeys in a warehouse. Like this is kind of got that just random bourbon cask, like fresh bourbon cask, big and punchy, like right from the barrel
Yeah.
on it.
No filtration.
No.
Um, it kind of strikes me how Ecuador seems to sort of typify what almost like what Hunter Lang was going for with our Noho distillery, where they wanted this like big and rich and like prone to or like perfect for sherry casking whiskey.
Well, I mean, look at the stills. We do have photos. We'll show them a little bit later, kind of work them in, maybe have a little break between the
Mhm.
sherried and the peated stuff. Uh, but the stills are small. They're kind of dumpy. I mean, the closest one just from memory would be looking at something like Macallan. They're short, dumpy, so you'd expect you're going to get a heavy, oily spirit. Part of this goes back to the stills. The stills when they were produced in the 1830s, because again, the distillery wasn't open in 1825. They were the smallest legal stills allowed. And the size was kind of chosen because I think they looked and said, like, what's the smallest still that you can't hide by like putting it on your horse and taking it up into the hills? And that was kind of the rough logic of why they set the stills at a certain size to try to make it harder for people to distill illicitly. So like Macallan, which founded 1825, um, not surprising that they've got this smaller still, but that creates a really heavy, thick, viscous spirit.
Yeah, I really like the texture on this. It's
Mhm.
so rich, but it has this oily creaminess to it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not overly complex, but it's what's there is good. And I mean, for 10 years old, I think the first sip was a bit full on, was a bit more than I was expecting, especially given how tame the nose was. But the palate on it is lush. Um, it's drinkable, very nutty. Um, could make for a nice summer dram, maybe even with a big block ice cube in a big Chardonnay glass sitting on the deck. Any other thoughts on that? Harmony, did you want to chime in with any thoughts on this one? Or you, she's
Or I was
muted.
gonna say I could talk to it in the second round, but
Okay. All right.
yeah,
We'll come back to you. I know, as you said in the chat, you're only here for the 25-year-old. That's fine. Maybe the
Yeah.
21s will be of interest to you too. We'll find
you
out.
know, there is a lot of bourbon cask in this lineup, and I'm pretty excited about that. So
Let's
I'm
do
not
it.
only here for the 25, but I love that bottle, so I'm definitely here
Okay.
for it.
All right. Okay. We'll come back to you. Shall we move on to the 12-year-old cast strength?
Yeah, that's a line that's said by a lot of older whiskey drinkers and not just about whiskey.
Yeah. We're not going to like break into Epstein jokes here, are we?
No, no. No, 25-year-old.
Yeah.
Um, the color change, like Edradour seems to get the color of sherry like no other dram, it seems for me.
Well, I think, going back to it, this is something that they've really hung their hat on. They've really made a big effort to come out with better sherry casks. And I
Mhm.
remember like we were the first store to bring Edradour back into Alberta. The importer, we worked with them. They were based out in Ontario. You could get it at that time in the LCBO, and this is the late 2000s, starting with the 10-year and then the 12-year-old Caledonian. We uh, we rolled the whiskey out, and it was okay, but it was 40% back then. A lot of bourbon, some sherry. The sherry wasn't the best. There was also a fair bit, I believe, of caramel coloring going on back then. I think through the 2010s, Andrew and Des, who was working with him at that time at Signatory, kind of really changed their approach. They started using better sherry casks. And you see this even throughout their Signatory portfolio today, the stuff that they're able to put out from their 100 proof line, the cast strength line. Like there's very few companies that are putting out as consistently good sherry cask whiskeys as they are, save, Gord MacPhail. And although some of it is finished, a lot of it's not. A lot of it is stuff that I believe they sourced and had filled into their own casks from birth in the 2010s, which again is unique. Like that was a lot of foresight on their part. And moving away from those lower ABVs, moving towards cask strength and non-chill filtered, no added coloring. And I think that's where like these 12-year-olds get is I would say it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I was made aware that Signatory had this really dark sherried stuff that we weren't seeing in Canada. I think it was primarily going to Asia and probably Germany at that time. And
Mhm.
they're currently owned by Kirsch Imports, I believe, in Germany. They own a 50% stake in it. So that was really driving some of the direction they were going. And the German market is famously, one of the few places in the world where you have to declare if there's caramel coloring in your whiskeys. So I think some of those changes, what that we're seeing now that are paying such big dividends, started in the early 2010s. And yeah, I think their whiskeys just keep getting better and better and more interesting. And you know, 10 years ago, I thought Edradour was cool because it was small, but I didn't think it was cool because it was the best whiskeys. And I think
Yeah.
my perspective on that is changing because I think the focus has been on quality. They opened another distillery so they could increase production without changing their style. They have a fairly long fermentation. It ranges between 48 and 96 hours, but leaning a little bit more towards the longer time period. Small stills, only 5 shifts a week. They're not doing 24/7. And there's little details. Their new distillery they built has the same cooler in it, and we'll show you when we do the photos. But I think what they've done has really paid off, and we're starting
Yeah.
to. We've been seeing that for especially the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, they've become one of the distilleries that we point people to when it comes to like I want a sherry bomb or a big sherry dram. Like it's up there with the like the Glen Aleckys of the world, in my opinion, for that.
Well, there was a time, Evan, you remember, like we were bringing in 50 plus cases at a time of that
Yeah,
signatory Edradour 46%, the one that was nicknamed
10-year-old.
the dark
Yeah,
10-year-old, and
yeah.
going through boatloads of it,
Hmm.
because there was hardly anyone else at that time that had it. I mean, GlenDronach had been doing that, but then they got Brown Forman, and
Yeah.
that really changed. And for a while, especially like 2019, 2020, if you wanted dark sherry, like Edradour was the guy.
Mm.
So 2012 vintage, 59%, matured in Oloroso sherry casks, 12 years of age. I think we've seen a couple of batches of this. We haven't seen them all, but this is the fifth batch. We might have tasted this one at that last Edradour tasting. Regardless, kind of nice to throw it in again. Lots of Christmas cake, dried fruits and chocolate on the nose to
Yeah.
kick things off.
Yeah. Yeah, Black Forest cake going into the Kirsch German side of things. Uh for that connection and some molasses notes for me, and even just a touch, like not meaty but solventy, like going into some like turpentine or paint thinner or glue notes on
Yeah.
there.
On the palate, quite reminiscent to me of like the heyday of Billy Walker's GlenDronach. Like
Yeah.
really kind of sweet, nutty, jammy, sherry cask. Not too over the top, so not too tannic, not too spicy. Really more in that dried fruits, chocolate, and
Mhm.
tobacco realm with maybe a little bit of a syrupy flair.
Yeah, it's almost a gentle beast when it comes to a sherry bomb, where
Mhm.
it isn't overladen with some those dry notes or spices, but that syrupy dried fruit note is just there all the way through.
Yeah. I mean, this is that modern style of sherry, but it's very well done. Uh, you know, what's interesting, and I don't want to slag any other distilleries or independent bottlers, but I mean, this is a good example of like a 12-year-old sherry cask whiskey that's really well integrated, that's not just kind of, you know, like the 11-year-old we just had. I mean, you're not going to get an insane amount of complexity, but it's well done. It doesn't feel kind of forced or dumpy. It's integrated well with the
Yeah.
spirit. And going back to that heavier distillate, I think as much as I liked and I thought that bourbon one was interesting, I mean, this is an example of how Edradour is a spirit that just seems to, well, because of
Yeah.
that's how it was made. It works really well with big sherry.
Yeah.
Kind of broke
Um,
Harmony's heart for a second there, but that,
there's there are a few notes that are reminiscent of like the G&M Mortlock 15
mhm,
in there for me.
yeah. A little bit of spice on the palate. Fennel. There's a nice kind of herbaceous, like
Yeah.
uh, almost like a Fernet Branca note on the palate and finish, which is kind of nice, minty, herbal, fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, I find those herbaceous notes and a touch more spice come out with a few drops of water.
Mhm. All right, so that's the 12-year-old cast strength. Now we got a couple of 21s. The first is bourbon barrel matured. The second is an Oloroso cask finish. So we're going to start with the bourbon barrel matured. This I'm pretty confident we did not have the last time around. I think this is the first time we've seen an Edradour of this age from, excuse me, from just bourbon casks,
Mm.
which is quite fun. Uh, You know, we've talked about how their importer is German. I don't know if it maybe begs the question, is their packaging um, directed to that market? Uh, because it is such an important market for them. I mean, I don't know what the rationale is between the different colors, the different tubes, the labels. I will say I do quite like the label on the Edradour bottles. Uh, Despite the fact I'm not a huge fan of bespoke bottles because I know it adds cost. I think it's a cool looking bottle, so it's kind of hard to flaw that. But the I'm not sure about the green, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm sure that's a
I was
nod
just
to the
gonna say,
bourbon
I like the green on that. I think it looks really good.
on the label, but the tube. I mean,
Yeah,
do we even need the tube?
no.
Yeah, a lot of no's, a lot of people shaking their head no. Uh,
Uh, sorry, nose wise, definitely some of those floral notes that Doug was talking about. It seems like they've sort of like matured into there, and there's even like a white flower slash spice note to it.
Little Edelweiss, perhaps.
Yeah.
Uh, there's, those citrus notes are still there. They're really soft, almost a little candied, going into
Hmm.
like some nice classic wine gum notes.
Yeah, just a touch of pine sap, like not the full on sharpness of it, but just a hint of it.
Sour gummy bears too.
Hmm.
Got a faint whiff just before I sipped it there. Something, yeah, and I think you're getting that a bit on the palate too. Something just a little more tropical with the fruits that are starting to get just a little brighter, a little more exotic. The palate on that is soft, lush. Um, some nice icing sugar notes, like powdered sugar as well too. More
Yeah.
more of those citrus fruits as well.
Like a very gentle peppery note in there as well,
Mm.
for me. But it stays juicy. It's not super drying.
No, it's very juicy. And it's definitely going tropical on the palate, like starting to get into like kiwis, pineapple, some melon notes, still lots of
Mhm.
citrus, but again, those nice kind of like waxy starburst fruit candy citrus notes.
Yeah, lychee coming through for
Mm.
me as well.
Hmm. Lychee is a good call. Man, that's pretty drinkable. Kind of hits a nice spot
Okay.
for me.
Man, and who else has official ballings of something of this age at that strength?
Uh, like maybe Ben Romick.
Yeah, but that's
Um,
like it's a short list.
yeah, I mean, and it's a good point that I think a lot of what we see at this age comes from independent bottlers. A lot of what they get is from the open market. It's traded a lot. It was stock predominantly laid down for blending.
Yeah,
And so maybe it's in more tired casks or casks that weren't quite as well coopered. I mean, we could draw a little comparison here. I mean, the Edradour is a small distillery. It's not quite Daft Mill small, but as we know in the case of Daft Mill, like Francis like basically approves every single bourbon barrel by hand that he fills for his distillery. I'm sure, Andrew Symington is probably pretty rigorous about the casks that he's selecting and filling as well, being a small business. So, better casks, better coopered, stored in dunnage warehouses for a long time and not moved frequently. That's a
yeah, just
recipe for
a lot more care
well,
put
it's
into
just
what
it's
the
a recipe
product.
to
Yeah.
have something that's going to survive and have a better like a higher ABV. If they're in a
Mhm.
palletized warehouse somewhere in central Scotland with millions of other casks, probably not going to hold their strength quite as well. Also, a lot of those were probably not put into the best wood, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really nice bottle.
I don't, I does not disappoint.
There's just like a touch of dunnage around everything too, which I quite like too. It's not over the top, but it's just there.
Well, Evan, it's funny because I did say during our signatory tasting last week that all their warehouses are dunnage, which is true, although a couple of them they use racking, but they're still
Mhm.
earthen floor, nothing's palletized. I mean, he's tried to keep it as traditional as possible.
Yep.
And I mean, one of the cool things about the warehouse, and they'll probably show it in the photos we see, is how the warehouses kind of are successively built up the creek and they flow
Yeah.
into each other and they all have ramps down because they're following the geography of that little river valley um,
Mhm.
up past the distillery. All right. Shall we move on to the Oloroso, the sherry version?
Yeah.
All right. That up. So red tube like the 12-year-old for this one. I mean, I could still do without the tube, but I don't know. Somehow I just think this looks a little better than the green one. But I digress. So 2001 vintage, initially matured in ex-bourbon, transferred into Oloroso sherry butts for the vast majority of its maturation, bottled at 21 years and 52.1%. So, this is an interesting example of Symington changing course about 15 years ago, maybe a little longer, pushing more of his stock into sherry and less of it into bourbon, re-racking stuff so that he would have more sherry matured product down the line. So technically a finish, but I mean, if it spent 70% or more of its life in that
Yeah.
cask, I mean, it's not, finish just doesn't seem to be the right word anymore. But
Well, and sherry wise, I would say on the nose that there's some definite, just like with the two X bourbons, there's some definitely through notes to that 12-year-old on the sherry side of things again. Still get a lot of those dried fruits and nutty notes going on.
Harmony's getting a bit of lock and doll on this one.
Nice.
Little baby vomit. I mean, I can see that there is a little bit of an acidity to it.
Yeah.
Um, to me, it's more like Maltesers, but
Hmm.
you know, to each
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah. As they say, one man's Malteser is another man's baby vomit, I guess.
Well, and I have to say I am one of those people. I don't mind a tiny bit of it, but like there are some people that think it's a cool note. And I mean, we won't
Hmm.
mention it, but there was an independent baller that brought out a bottling of Brook that was like it was
Yeah.
undrinkable. Like it was,
Yeah.
and
It was
bottled it.
regurgitated.
Yeah, and bottled it because he said, well, there's people that like that style. Um, but I don't know. Do you really like that style? Like how many people like, I mean, I suppose there's people that like lambics, so maybe that's the corollary.
Mhm.
The Germans like it a lot. They also like some of them also like sulfur. So
Yeah.
this to me, it's really chocolatey. What's it called? Like a crisp or like the crunchy bar, that sort of caramel rock candy. Forget the
There's a
name for it.
there's a touch of eat more in there too, going into those date notes.
Doug mentioning that the Germans also like to roast sausages in the Edradour parking lot. That is they formerly liked to do that because they're probably not welcome to do it any longer. So not specifically because of them, but just because of anybody. But that's a whole different story. Very chocolatey. So Harmony said the palate's better. Evan, what do you think about the palate on this one?
Yeah, the palate's fantastic. It goes a bit drier than the 12-year-old, of course, as it should with age, but um, still has some slight solvency notes, but a lot of those have blown off with time. Goes really like chocolatey.
Mm,
Uh, Tons of dried fruit notes again. It's just like teetering on the edge of savoriness, but doesn't quite
mm,
go there. Like where like I get like the essence of bacon, but it's not there
mm.
yet.
Yeah. Well, I can see that because the second you said bacon, I was like, oh yeah, like homemade blueberry pancakes with bacon.
Yeah.
Um, it's surprisingly soft, uh, given it spent most of its life in sherry. And to me, I think the sherry is a different animal in this one than in the first one. Like this seems more like an old school style of sherry. It's more subtle, it's softer. It's definitely not as tannic as the other one. It's not as spicy. It's really in that chocolate, soft leather, sweet tobacco, dried fruits realm for me.
Mhm.
Chocolate acai berries on the palate.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
very blueberry, like lots of like fresh cooked, like blueberry compote notes.
Is it like rock? What is that chocolate? The Rockside Farm one, or what is it? The Brookside. It's like all the flavors of those
Mm,
chocolate covered fruits.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
Costco chocolate covered fruits.
I like the
Yeah.
palate on this a lot more than the
Yeah.
last 12.
You know what? And
It's sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. It goes a little bit more into like a chewy sherry with that dryness as well versus the 12, which was just it wasn't straightforward, but it was just like big but gentle at the same time.
Yeah, and the 12 for me, it had like a little bit more of like that kind of sticky cola sweetness to it on the
Yeah,
finish.
that's a good call.
Yeah, this is to me, this is just really nice sherry, very well done, really nice balance to it. Nice chocolate tones, nice fruit. You know, bizarrely, those floral notes that we were talking about are still there. Like the sherry is soft enough that it's allowing some of that floral profile to show through, even for a fairly old whiskey. Um, so I think that's really cool. I think it's very well done. And to me, I like that style a lot better than I do the 12-year-old, which is still good. It's very
Mhm.
Yeah.
clean, but it's just not as interesting to me.
Yeah, a lot more character on both 21s.
Yeah.
Again, as you would expect with some age.
Yeah, but the sherry, I mean, I think the sherry is very different in those two. Like it's a very
Hmm.
different sherry approach. Like the profile is not really in that same vein. I don't think if you'd left that 12-year-old for another 9 years that you would get something comparable. I think it would be
Yeah,
a lot more rough, a lot spicier. It would just be very, very
yeah,
different.
yeah, that's fair. Going back to the 21 bourbon, and again, the nose is just still fantastic going up against that sherry. I'm getting a bit more of like a chalky dunnage note to it, but I love them both.
It's got like a fancy French hotel soap nose to it.
Yeah,
Fancy soap.
Yeah.
yeah,
Not just the stuff now. Well, like most hotels now, even the mid-range hotels, they don't even give you soap. They have these things mounted on the wall so that
yeah,
presumably you don't steal them.
yeah, yeah, dispensers.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the 25 and then maybe we'll take a quick break and take a look at some pretty pictures. But until that time, here is the 25. Um, we really should probably get a new photo of this up, including with the box, because it does come in, not that the box is important, but this does come in a nice looking box. And I think with the bottle, the whole package is quite nice. Um, but this is batch two of Edradour 25-year-old, bottled at 55.6%. The oldest Edradour ever to come to Canada from 1999, matured in a first fill Oloroso sherry. But um, I've really enjoyed this, and I just noticed that was not the one I'm looking for. This is the one I'm looking for here. I accidentally jumped ahead to the Ballechin 10, and I was like, wait, this is not right. That's much better. Some similarities right off the bat on the nose. Like the sherry
Yeah,
has a softness to it, very
it just
chocolatey.
has like just a slight edge of acetone or like nail polish remover in there.
Yeah.
Not overbearing, but
So that's Harmony's baby vomit, I'm guessing, is
yeah,
the
yeah,
synchronicity between those two.
yeah,
She says
yeah.
no.
I
No.
I have heard that strips nails like nothing else, but
No, this is definitely different. There was
yeah.
something funky in the last one. I'm not getting that note here. That
Almost
like
Mhm.
Harmony almost makes me wonder if like your glass was dirty. Because like I'm still struggling. I've not gotten anything
Oh,
on.
I know the problem. Says something on here.
Oh,
It is tainted.
Yeah, who knows?
enough said.
Maybe. But this one, beautiful.
Yep. Oh man, that the 21 is just, or the 25, sorry. The 21 was really good. The decadence of the 25 is just crazy. And again, still at 55.6% is nuts.
Yeah. This is going back to that old school classic Christmas cake style of sherry cask whiskeys from the 2000s and before. Really reminds me a lot of like, old Glenfarclas
Family
from
casks.
about
Yeah.
20 years ago. Some of the family cast ballings, but if you're looking at family casts, it's really this is like the 1990s, maybe
Yeah.
like late 80s, early 90s, where you had this parcel for a handful of years of just really soft, like dark but balanced, rich sherry.
Yeah. When they had the pendulum swing back from the plain casks of the early 80s
Which
back into big
I
sherry.
quite well in the 70s, I quite liked those late
Yeah.
70s plain cask Glenfarclas as well, or Glenfarclas as they're called.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, this is that nice, nuanced, you know, I don't dislike big sherry, but I dislike big sherry when it's just really closed and really tight. What I like
Yeah.
is something a little softer, something that allows that spirit character to still come in and it's got a nice balance to it. And this is ticking all those boxes for that.
Yeah. In and you've tried more than I have on the Glenfarclas side of things, but from what I recall, even Glenfarclas family casks in their heyday didn't have that same amount of richness. There was always family casks always struck me as having like almost like a tea-like sort of
Mm.
steeped style to them, and probably just from a difference of spirit. This kind of goes more into that Macallan side of things, and even like the old Glendronach single casks that you would get from
Yeah.
the 70s and I think the night up to 92 or 93, some of those.
93. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
similarities to like those 93 and before Oloroso cask Glendronachs. But again, going back to the Billy Walker era, like, and really, I guess in hindsight, we've learned that maybe there was a bit of Billy's magic, but also he bottled off most of the best juice before he left or before he
Yeah.
sold it off. So that maybe just what's left there isn't quite as exceptional. But yeah, a lot of that stuff from actually 95 as well, 93, 95 and before, there was just a lot of really gorgeous sherry cask whiskeys there. I'm I think that's a bit more of a full package than the 21, but they're
Yeah.
both lovely. I suppose the caveat to that would be I really like this, but it is an additional $360. So
Yeah.
right, no, yeah, $360 more. $260 more.
But but you do get a pointless wooden box instead of a pointless cardboard tube.
That is true. And the wooden box you could give to your kids to play with and they could have some
Mhm.
fun with it. So turn it into a chest for memories, something like that. I'm going to put it up here just because I think it's worth putting a photo out because I think it looks cool. Um, Here, put it up on screen. Come on. And then we'll off. You click on one photo and then they want you to accept all cookies. Um, but here, just because they've got it on their site, borrowing from our friends at Master of Malt, because it's a nice photo. But there you go. There's the box and the bottle. As I said, nice looking little package. Do you need the box? Probably not. But it does look cool. All right. Quick little photo tour. Why not? So let me put this up on screen. So these photos were taken from 2019 when Evan and I visited Edradour the last time we were there. Evan, I think this was like our last stop before Edinburgh, wasn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And you'd been put through your paces on that trip, I think it's fair to say, including a moment where you thought you were going to die,
Yeah,
or two.
that was right at the beginning though.
That was right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, we had a ferry to catch, which,
Hmm.
as most people on here probably know, we missed, but then they came back for us famously. So this is the little the stream, the burn that runs up the Edradour and through the Edradour Distillery property. Um, Nice, beautiful little whitewashed buildings with their slate roofs, except for the new ones. Uh, there's the famous Andrew Symington tractor that would run you over if you weren't paying attention. And the road that runs up the little distillery. Very beautiful. When I first went there the first couple of times, there would be hundreds and hundreds of people. At one point in time, over 100,000 people a year were visiting Edradour. I think it had more visitors than any other distillery in Scotland because it was right near, Scotland's equivalent of Banff, a little town called Pitlochry, beautiful little mountain town, and they offered free tours. So if you showed up on a bus with 60 other people, you could all have a free tour. I think Andrew clued in about 10 years ago that those weren't profitable, so he stopped offering the free tours. And then I think eventually that just evolved into stopped offering any tours. But there was a nice little shop, nice little tasting bar you could go to before COVID. This is the original distillery building, little cart there to take away the draft. Another shot up the burn. Of course, it's 9 a.m. when we get there, and drams and coffee. And I think it was on that trip, Evan. So this might actually have been the genesis of this. Was
Yeah,
asked
that was
about
when
the
we
dark.
tried it. Yeah.
We asked about the dark sherry Edradour, and they're like, "Oh, you mean this?" And that's when it. Shortly after this, it first came to Canada. We tried a bunch of other stuff there. Into the distillery, this is the mash tun, tiny little mash tun, I believe 1 ton. It has to be shoveled out by hand, which is not a fun job, but it's a job and it pays. Well, there's the spirit still. It's a tiny distillery. There are the washbacks where the fermentation
Mhm.
takes place. Um, this is called a Morton refrigerator. I believe Edradour is the only distillery that still has it, and it's a way of chilling the spirit coming off the stills. That heart cut before it goes into the um, fermenters. There are the stills. The spirit still is the wee one over there. The wash still is that one here. And the look inside one of the washbacks. A couple more looks at the stills. There's the mill. They'd recently replaced the mill when we visited. Um, Before actually, no, they did have one before. The barley all comes in these bags. Again, roughly about a ton, 1.1 tons. And then Edradour is one of the few distilleries that still has super old school worm
Yeah.
tubs. So the condensation is in here. In theory, this is going to mean that you have a slightly meatier spirit. You're reducing your copper contact a little bit. Um, but yeah, wandering up the distillery, this is the old malt barn. So, and the kiln. So this is where they would have originally made their barley, malted their barley before they made their whiskey. Oh, I'm not sure why I jumped ahead so many photos there. This is now inside the new distillery. So made almost identical to the original one. I think we skipped over some casks there, like Dallas do, almost a good vintage. Uh, the mash tun in this is the same dimensions as the old one, but it can actually be emptied manually. So they don't need, automatically. They don't need to actually manually shovel this one out. And Evan, I believe when we were there, they had a soccer ball that once all the draft gets scooped into there, they're able to shove a soccer ball with air pressure down through it to clean the pipe. I don't know if you remember that detail, but I remember like, what is
No.
this for? And they're like, oh, that's for cleaning the pipe,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
made me think of the oil and gas industry for a moment there because it's kind of like a pig, one of those things that they put down oil and gas pipelines
Mhm.
to check them and or to clean them out. The new stills, you can see they're at the same level in this, so it's easy to see that they're actually not that dissimilar in size. The spirit still is just a tiny bit smaller. Beautiful copper. These had been installed, I believe in 2017 or 2018, so they were fairly new. And then there's the worm tubs for the new stills there. You can see the mash tun with the giraffe in there and the new mill. So they didn't preserve any of those old components. They really essentially completely built a replica of the distillery, though without trying to replicate the building and the confines that they would have had to put it in before. And, you know, try to make sure that they did everything they could so that the spirit in the new still would be as close to the old as possible. Doug saying, how do buses fit down that laneway? It is a fair question. I mean, I used to take people there in a 9-seater Volkswagen bus, like mini bus or van. And like, I'd be nervous about turning that thing around or driving it down they call it a road, but it's like a bike path for two-way traffic
Mhm.
up the hill. But yeah, those coach drivers are something else. So we're gonna go into Ballachin now. We did a little digging on this earlier because Ballachin is the name of another distillery, and we were wondering if it was one of those original distilleries that became part of Edradour, and it's not. It was a separate distillery, operated actually a little ways into the 20th century before it closed. It was one of 7 distilleries operating in Perthshire in the late 1800s. Edradour is the only one that's still operating today. Now, there are some new ones that have opened in the last few years, but of those original 7 distilleries, Edradour is the last operating. So we were going to do
Yeah.
Ballechin 10 and Ballechin 18. And I believe the interesting thing about both of these is they're both bourbon cask.
Mhm.
So we'll be able to compare the spirit at young and a much more advanced age. So starting with the 10-year-old Ballechin at 46%. This is peated to 50 parts per million, not Isle of Peat. So you shouldn't find, like, it shouldn't have that maritime salty profile to it. I find it's often quite ashy. And yeah, bottled with bourbon and some ex Oloroso sherry. So this is not straight bourbon. There's a bit of sherry in here. And you can actually pick that up actually right away on the nose.
Mhm. Harmony says, where do they get the peat? It smells a bit coastal.
That's a good question. I don't know that I have that, but I mean they'll be getting this malt from a commercial malting plant,
Yeah.
not from an Isla malting plant. Um, so I don't know. Probably from the same place that a lot of other Speyside and Highland distillers get their peated malt. It's quite creamy,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's got a charcoal edge to it as well.
well,
For
there's
me.
also this like little bit of like leather, like you're
Mhm.
handing someone a vanilla cupcake with like a new leather glove.
I was just tangentially, I was wondering if Symington could pull a Headley Wright and create a Ballechin distillery, like build the distillery, and then claim that Pitlochry or Perthshire should have its own regional designation.
It'd be amazing. Well, I mean, all they need is one more distillery, and they could.
Yeah,
If you got Diageo on
exactly.
side, then yeah, Blair, like yeah, Pitlochry could be a region because they've got Blair Athol.
Mhm.
So I think Aberfeldy's a little too far away to be, and not really Perthshire. Um, Yeah, the nose on this is interesting. It's not all that peaty or smoky. Like I know it's going to be there. I know it's going to hit on the palate, but on the nose, it's quite restrained.
Yeah, it's got this like touch of char and earthiness that I really enjoy, and just a slight sort of mustiness or dampness that goes along with that. But this is just a great peated 10-year-old, in my opinion. Like I just love the texture of it. Um, it's not overly complex, but there's enough going on to keep you interested.
Well, I think for peated malt, I mean,
Yeah.
this is what you want, right? There's especially on the palate, it's a nice clean smoke, a little bit on the ashy side. The bourbon's added this nice honeyed, creamy, again, like coconut icing sugar note to it, and then soft citrus fruits. And going back to Doug's comment on the first one, it's got that nice little soft floral tone there too. I actually have to say, for a non-Isle peated malt, I think this has got a ton going on. Kind of wish we'd bought more of this, but I mean, in the market we're in, like, we might really love something, but is that going to be enough to move a
We've had
volume
a
like this?
few uphill sells in the past,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, from Edradour, like the Edradour Ballechin cuvées, which tended to be
Yeah.
really good as well. Yeah.
Yeah, those were great. I mean, it's 46%, it's 10 years old, it's $132. So, you're getting into like Ben Romick 15 territory there. So
Yep.
I think that's a challenge. Like, it's a little pricey for what it is. I think the reality though is that they don't have a lot of this. It's not a big part of their production. Um, you know, and the importer's not bringing in boatloads of it either. I think partly because she just doesn't want to sit on it, especially in the environment we have now where things that are sitting in the warehouse too long, the taxes get escalated on them so that it makes it so that they can't keep them around. But this is really nice. I mean, this is just very well made, well executed whiskey.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Tom commenting that interesting that it says Edradour, but on the glass, but the Ballechin. I think it's because it's still from Edradour Distillery, and that's their bespoke bottle. And they probably don't want to have a bespoke bottle made and then buy tens of thousands of bottles of it just to put Ballechin on the bottle.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end of the day, I mean, it's still from Edradour Distillery, even if it is their
Yeah.
peated incarnation. So if you were an independent bottler and you were bottling this, you would still have to declare that this is Edradour,
Mhm.
because that's the distillery that it's from. Well, shall we move on to the 18-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Haven't had it yet.
Yeah, I think this is my first time trying this. Well, is definitely my first time trying this, and I have to say, I love the font on this one. Even though it's the same as the green one. Maybe I've just got a hate on for green today. I'm not sure. But the font really pops on this 18-year-old. So there's the bottle and tube. Cask strength 18-year, 57.8%. Again, matured in bourbon and sherry cask. So predominantly bourbon, but some sherry as well too. And yeah, there's just something like charmingly old-fashioned about that label. It reminds me actually of, even though it's not the same, but
Maidenheads.
just the
Yeah.
old signatory labels, like going back
Oh
to
yeah.
the 90s, the ones that were in the kind of the round dumpy bottles.
Yeah. It their style totally reminds me of Springbank and Cadenhead, where it's like their labeling never touched a computer. Like it
Yeah,
was
there's a
done by hand or
75-year-old
something.
man drafting every label by hand.
That's right. That's right.
Spruce tip panna cotta, that is a baller note.
There's just a hint of like a heavily cinnamoned tiramisu in there for me as well.
Well, I'm gonna double down on Doug's. To me, it's like whipped ricotta with olive oil and maybe just a bit of sage, little sea
Mm-hmm.
salt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not because it's salty, but just because that sea salt makes everything else pop.
That sage note is a good one, and I think it comes through on the palate as well.
Man, the smoke is more prominent on this one, which is interesting than it was on the 10 on the nose. It's like sage. Doug, is that a dig at Evan's once and former Instagram handle?
I'll take it.
Oh man. I think the best compliment I can pay to this is that it kind of reminds me a little bit of like 20 something Ben Romick.
I was gonna say it reminds me of the best parts of Ardbeg Trayvon,
Mhm.
but amped up.
There's just an old school feel to this on
Hmm.
the palate. There's lots of texture. It's delicate, it's layered. There's some really nice fruits like that 21 bourbon cask. It's really going tropical on the palate. Um, like grilled pineapple. Man, this is just juicy. I don't know why, but it makes me think of like I've had a chance like back in the day, Igor used to when we were really tight, would like occasionally like send me little 50 mils of old White Horse. And there's something about this that just remind me of some of those like really oxidized old White Horse blends.
Uh, Again, like really nice through notes from the 10-year-old and just amped up and more complex.
Well, there's a lot going on. There's a nice texture
Yeah.
to it. There's nice flavors. Um, the oak, what both the bourbon and the sherry cask are quite balanced. I mean, the sherry seems very minimal in this. Like it's giving a little bit of leather, maybe a bit of tobacco, a bit of chocolate, but really the bourbon is driving the rest of the profile on this.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good dram.
All right, man, this is gonna be tough. I've got at least four whiskeys that I'm not sure where I would put them in this lineup, but yeah. Shall we go back through it one more time? Harmony, you gonna join us for
Hmm.
a speed round?
Yes, yes,
All
I
right.
will. Even though I've currently crushed, I will do my best.
Okay. Back to that
I wasn't, if my Instagram dig wasn't at anybody that uses it. It was that my inability to
Uh,
have a tolerance for it at the moment.
a tolerance for Instagram?
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I keep saying, all right, today I'm gonna post something, and then I don't. And then it's like 2 months later, I'm like, God, I gotta do that because it's marketing, but I just don't want to. So
Mhm.
anyway,
it's okay, Evan. Usually they're just about our superhero coworker who comes to fix all the technology that doesn't work.
Oh, to be that guy.
all right.
Ooh, that guy. Okay.
The shredded wheat 11-year-old Edradour to kick things off. It's like Hershey's white chocolate kisses.
Yeah. Where you try to like go like heavily artisanal with it and you're like tweezering on microflowers on
Mm,
top of it.
mm. Austin says orange creamsicle on the palate
Nice.
for sure. That is a really good note on the palate. I mean, it's soft. Yeah, the gummy bears, um, fruity. It's quite approachable. I think I'll go back to my initial comment. Like, it's not insanely complex, but it's very drinkable, and
Yep.
especially for 60%. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of shocking that it's 11 years old and this drinkable at 60%.
Yeah, I'm getting and I think I mentioned this on the 21, but I'm getting a bit of that lychee
Yeah.
coming on the palate now.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah,
yeah, just a wonderful dram.
Yeah.
it's really
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
Harmony, anything to add?
Not really. You guys said all my notes.
Okay. I'm getting browned butter on the outer
Oh
dark,
yeah.
and I know
Oh,
that I made some last night.
uh, it's not showing up as much this time as it was the first time for me, but there was like this raw kind of corn on the cob note
Mm.
that
Ooh,
was coming through on my second sip. It's just like this very bourbon type note. Um, but yeah, it's gone like extremely juicy and tropical, and that orange creamsicle is nailed it
Well,
for me.
you're still on the 11-year-old. I thought we
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we'd moved on to the 12. That's why I
Yeah,
was, no.
well, the 12 is very good.
I was like corn on the cob. I was like, I get it's more to me, it's more of a double caramel corn than corn on the
Yeah.
cob. Lots of brown
Yeah,
sugar.
toffee and caramel in spades.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Touch of molasses.
Hmm. Black cherries,
Yeah.
chocolate.
Well, Evan, you said Black Forest cake the first time around, and on the
Hmm.
palate, it's got a lot of that, um, leather cigar humidor kind of tobacco notes on the
Yeah.
palate. It's very tobacco-y, um, not overly spicy, but there's some like pretty firm earthy spices in there too. Good for modern sherry. It's clean. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, not my style, but it's quite good.
Mhm.
Harmony.
It's got, after all the like fruit and chocolate and leather, it goes into this like little bit of like a sour food note. I think that's like a little bit
Mhm.
more up to Evan's palate. Um, Not quite balsamic. Um,
Balsamic on the nose though, like
is
without
it?
that browning butter note. There's a touch of balsamic now for me.
Yeah, yeah. I got molasses.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's something a little bit sour on the finish of this.
All right, 21-year-old bourbon. Harmony, I think I can get a bit of your kind of slightly sour lactic note on there now, but to me, it's still it's like well within my level of tolerance.
It's like you like doused a bunch of macadamia nuts in olive oil on the nose for me.
What is
Well, it's
this one
definitely
that you're on?
the 21-year-old.
The 21-year-old bourbon.
Oh,
There's a bit of a like sour patch kids note.
Hmm.
Um, but then there's also this really nice creamy, I don't know, like slightly fermented, like some kind of yogurt, like cream dessert.
And a single mint cert.
yeah, I can get that kind of mint note.
And then the palate, it's lush, creamy, tropical. There's a little
Mhm.
bit of like a cool mint note there on the
Mhm.
palate too. Um, it seems to have like it doesn't seem quite as bright and tropical as the first time we went through it, but it's still very drinkable. Like this is a dangerously drinkable whiskey.
It still has that's like just an underlying, not over the top, but just light peppery note for me on the palate too that I really enjoy.
Hmm. Yeah, nice.
There's something on the nose that just reminds me of my grandpa's wood shop, where it's just like dusty and wood glue and just slightly mechanical, but then the palate,
Yeah.
it's like very juicy and lots of those powdered sugar and fruit notes.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to bring it back to the glass again, but I guess we've left
Yeah.
that.
No, I poured
I
it
was gonna
into a
say it's
different glass. It's also tainted, but
nice.
it's
Yeah.
but
I was going to
it's
ask
the
if
next one that has
yeah.
all that, the wrongness to it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Evan, what were you going to ask?
Well, I was going to ask if that's where all the babies threw up was in your grandpa's shed.
No babies were allowed in my grandpa's shed.
Yeah.
That could be the plot of a children's movie
Yeah.
by Pixar.
Yeah.
Or like one of those books you give the kids to keep them away from everything.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's right.
the 21-year-old Oloroso cask uh, still has that sour milk note, but it's definitely
Mhm.
calmed down. But it's definitely there.
It's more like a yogurt with like a sour cherry note for me.
Sure. I
That
can see where you're going.
it makes me like feel like Stevie Wonder. Like I'm just like letting it roll my palate and I'm just jiving. Like
Yeah.
it's that is so drinkable. And I'm not really big into big sherry right now, but I really like that. It's soft, fruity, chocolatey. Nice balance to it. I still don't know that I get, and maybe I'm blind to it. I don't get anything on the nose resembling baby vomit, but man,
God bless.
the nose for me isn't the star. The star on this one for me is the palate. The palate's just awesome.
Well, I thought it was crazy, but I picked it up on a couple others in the lineup too. So maybe I'm sensitive today.
Yeah. Or no,
Um,
maybe you're picking up something Harmony, as we all know, women supposedly have better palates than men, so better
different,
noses.
just different. I'd never say I'm better.
Well, no, but
Well,
I
and
mean,
those,
maybe
I
you
mean,
get
me and
stuff that I
Frederica,
don't.
we could be better.
yeah, no doubt. It could be too that like a lot of the lactic notes are just coming in and off those longer fermentation times too.
Totally.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like
25 here.
it doesn't have to go all the way into the baby, but yeah. Oh, this 25 is still excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think the best Edradour I've had is the no, no, sorry, I was thinking of a different distillery, but I really like this 25.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what was
I
the
was
one
I
thing
was
you
thinking
still
of
thought was better?
I think that there's through notes to the Millstone 25s right now for
Oh,
me.
okay. Yeah, I mean that's a good comparison. They're both old school style sherry.
Yeah.
They're both kind of I don't want it's dumpy's not the right word because dumpy is more they're like a little gooey, kind of like a really nice cinnamon bun. Like they've
Yeah.
got that nice syrupy sweet profile, but
Well,
balance.
and they kind of typify the like you could almost look at Macallan bottlings as being like fitting a blueprint.
Hmm.
And Edradour and Springbank and even Millstone to some extent is the 3-year-old child with a bunch of box of crayons that's trying to color in a page where like it looks pretty because everything's not inside the lines in some ways.
Well, I've got my way of thinking of these two whiskeys, the 21 and the 25. I think the 21 is like if I need something to cheer me up, I think that 21-year-old that would do a good job of cheering me up. It would just put me into a good mood. I think the 25-year-old is something I'd want you to pour me if I had someone had given me bad news and I didn't want to think about it. You'd pour me some of that 25, so I just would stop thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're nosing it and then I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
already
catch that.
forgotten. As you guys know,
Yeah.
like sometimes it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's even with text. Like you got to make sure that the text is all in one box. Because if there's two boxes before he replies, he only reads the bottom one.
well, and the problem is like if I get the text and then I'm not able to reply, like for example, at a moment where the big boss is around
Yeah.
and then three or four
Walter?
more
Yep.
texts come in, I've totally forgotten about that text you sent me three or four other people's texts ago.
Yep.
So anyway,
I just heard you're not priority.
no, it's just don't text me. Like if
Yeah.
Don't
something's
text.
important, put it in
Put
an
it in an
email.
email.
Don't
Yeah.
text me because there's a good chance that text will get buried and I won't remember to go back to it.
Yeah.
Just
Um,
Andrew, I
it-
think bottom line is like I preferred it when I was your second wife behind Jen, and then Walter came in, and now I'm like I'm a distant third at
you're like,
best.
I just had a
we'll
Yeah.
keep
shudder
that
there
in.
for a second, but
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that. Um, Ballechin 10-year-old, how about?
Ooh.
Is there another distillery that has this peat profile?
Yes.
What is it?
These last two both remind me of like Kalila bottlings from time to time,
Yeah.
not core, but independently. And
Hmm.
there's something that I like very much about these.
I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of like Ardbeg meets Lafroig or like a few Williamson bottles we've had, but without the coastal notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think for
But
me,
Kalila
going
works
from
as well.
memory, Kuboken is probably the closest
Ooh.
profile was. Um, but even then, it's not a good comparative. Because the distillate's very different, just from the stills.
And this is more
So
ashy than Kiboken tends to
it is
be.
more ashy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, it's
love
good.
it. It's
18
good.
year old.
Oh, there's a touch of barnyard. Again, drenched in olive oil, which seems to be a thing I'm picking up now. In there.
It just tastes like peated whiskeys used to be, is all I
Mhm.
can say. It's not like a modern
Mhm.
short ferment distiller, like just boring distiller's yeast, generic peated malt.
Yeah,
This is
get
like
it
the
in,
way to
get
do
it out.
it.
This is awesome. This
Yeah.
is.
Okay, I
Mhm.
think it's time for a poll. Um, Fire that up. So Evan has a third question tonight. We'll see what it is. Um, so you got a few minutes here to pick your favorites and then answer the cheeky third questions. I'm not even going to read them now. We'll save that for later. That can be a pleasure for after. Um, Evan, Harmony, top three whiskeys. Who wants to go first?
You got yours, Harmony?
I think so.
Okay,
Okay.
Evan. Or do you not know?
Harmony can go first if she has hers. I'm
Okay.
still mulling something. Yeah.
Edradour 25. Um,
Yeah.
my tasting notes just very boldly say yes and more.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just thick and rich and juicy, and I love it. Just beautiful. Yeah, I would like to not think and just drink that as well. Andrew, I'm with you. And then the Ballechin 18, I thought was just. This is why I love the tastings when we do the two styles because you get to find some cool
Mhm.
non-Iowa peats, and I really, really like that. And then based on glasses, 21 bourbon barrel matured also is empty and delicious. And I liked its combination of like mechanical and sweet sour candies. I thought it was really great.
Nice. Okay. I have the same three picks in a different order.
Cool.
My first is that Edradour 21. The bourbon. It's not a whiskey that I came here and was thinking that would be my top, but man, that is great bourbon cask, high strength 21-year-old whiskey. I think it just shows so well. Second is the Ballechin 18. Uh, very close second on that one. I really enjoyed that one. And then if I had to pick one after that, then it'd probably be the Edradour 25. There's not a whiskey in the lineup that I would not be happy with though. Andrew.
I'm still struggling with this. But bizarrely, I think I don't know if it's just my palate tonight. I need one more moment.
Andrew's
Was that the
getting
25 where
hasty.
you're trying to forget something or?
Yeah. Um, yeah, to be honest, it was the battle between the 21 and the 25, whether I wanted, Stevie Wonder or a Forget Me Not. And I think I'm gonna go with Stevie Wonder tonight. Like just my palate tonight, I like that 21 better.
The
Um,
21 bourbon?
no, the 21 Sherry. Um,
Wow, cool.
uh, I still really like the 25, but for me, maybe it's the time of year, maybe it's I want something a little lighter. It's just a little too intense, but it's still my number two. And
Mhm.
I'm so back and forth on this, but I think I'm gonna go Ballechin for my number three, the Ballechin 18. The the
Nice.
the 21 bourbon was really good. Um, it's just not like the full package for me that I think the Balkan 18's got with that peat element in there a little bit more character. So those are my top.
They should do a Ballechin Caledonia, like a 12-year-old sherry.
Get Doogie McLean out of retirement to
That's right.
bring a folk song for it.
Well, I mean, if we want to sell bottles, Doogie's got to be involved in some shape or form.
I don't know that there's many Scotch drinkers alive today who still know who Doogie McLean is, but I mean, at one point in time, if you were Scottish, I think he was kind of a big deal. So maybe he was like the tragically hip of Scotland uh,
Yeah.
for folk people. Uh, all right, let's check in on the poll. Everyone who can vote voted. So the favorites. Uh, let me share this. Round one, Edradour 25, one followed by the 21 Bourbon and the
Wow.
18-year-old Ballechin in second place. So interesting. And second favorite, 21 Bourbon matured, followed by a three-way tie from the Edradour 11-year natural cask strength, the 21 Oloroso, and the 25. So very interesting results. Admittedly, a small sample tonight. Uh, now to the cheeky third question. Is it possible that Edradour has too many different sherry-driven releases? No, I can't tell the difference between the cask strength, straight from the cask, natural cask strength, and Oloroso matured releases. It is simple. Or no, I can tell. I mean, yeah, I'm not even gonna dive into that. Yes, we can get a simpler, more uniform lineup, please, or can we get? How about Edradour? Alizarin, Vermilion, Sanguine, and Burnt Umber. Um, okay, Evan, are you trying to recreate the Macallan
Yes, I am.
1824 collection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
third question, all I know is I have had more sherry in the past 2 weeks of virtual tastings than my alcoholic aunt managed to drink over her lifetime. I mean, wow, that went dark really fast.
Yeah. Sorry about your aunt.
Wow.
Took a
Yeah. Nobody likes a McAllen joke, eh?
took a strange turn. I mean, if I was going to vote for one of those three, I probably would have gone for the McAllen joke,
Yeah.
but nevertheless,
Too many
uh,
syllables, Evan.
yeah, fun tasting tonight. Thank you everyone for joining. Hope you're still enjoying your summer. I hope you enjoyed what's left of it. Harmony and Evan have got the Rosé tasting next week if you're so inclined. The week after that, I believe, is the Whiskey Trail, and then the Elixir tastings in September, and then more stuff coming in the not too distant future. Uh, this was a great lineup. Evan, to your point before, I think all of these,
Yeah.
showed very well. Distillery, uh, that I think maybe doesn't get enough limelight in the broader spectrum in the crowded market that is. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a good night. Talk soon.
Night.
Bye, everybody.